and Procedures. Thank you. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Temporary Rules and Procedures Committee. And I'm going to take roll call. Time is 6:03. And present is Councilor Franco and Councilor Bordelon and myself, Chair Juliet, Council Parker. Can I get an approval of a motion to approve the meeting minutes, special meeting minutes from January 13th?
I'll make a motion to approve the Town Council Temporary Rules and Procedure Committee special meeting minutes of January 13th, 2022. So moved.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just had some questions about them. Are you going to open up for discussion first?
Are there errors or is there, yeah. I
Well,
did,
usually when you approve before you ask, does anyone have any questions or error, concerns about, to review them. So I just wanted to make sure I'm speaking at the right time.
what are your concerns?
But if you already had a vote, you can move forward. That's fine.
Are you abstaining?
I would just like some clarifying on some of the additions as written, the draft. Is that what we're referring to? Or just the
Just the minutes.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, thank you. I was just double checking to make sure, because there's some errors in the draft rules. So I'm just seeing, are we moving all of it, including the draft, or just the agenda with the minutes?
We're just approving the meeting minutes, not the draft, because the draft is for us to go over, just to look at.
Perfect. Thank you. Just want to double confirm.
Okay. A couple of things. If I would like to add.
How did Councilor Bordelon vote on that?
Council Bordelon?
The minutes, how did I vote on the minutes? If the draft is not including in them, then I would be in favor. And if the draft is part of it, then I would not vote in favor. I mean, there's really not much. I mean, these are very, basic minutes, so there's really nothing to object to into this. So yeah, I'd be in favor of that. But I was wondering if the draft was attached to it. That was my question. Does that answer your question, Councilor Franco? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's for the record. We need to know how people voted.
Okay, so 3-0-0, thank you. So we're continuing on with new business, which are the rules. And do we have, before we begin, when we're speaking, can we just say we'll yield the floor so then I know when you're finished and I'm not interrupting? Because I'm not trying to offend anyone, but when I do big pauses, I figured I'm done. But so if we could just say I yield the floor after we're done speaking, that would assist me in running the meeting. Thank you. So we can go back to the draft because we can look at rules 1 through 5. And I believe people think there's maybe issues. Council Bordelon?
Are you speaking to me? You just said people, I didn't know. Are you asking me?
I'm asking, you said there was some concerns.
Well, just some of the way it was worded and the way that we stated it doesn't necessarily reflect. So I just didn't know when we're going to review. Are we going to review all of this at the very end once we're done, like collaborating and putting things in, or when do you want to? I mean, obviously it's still going to go to the council anyway. But I just I also wanted to ask what our process was. At the last meeting, I had asked if we could start a Google Docs, because I think it'd be important to be able to type in our stuff. And that way, when we come to the meeting, if everybody jumps in and logs in, we could add some of the suggestions or amendments that we'd like to make to the rules. And then that way it can be presented on the screen share, which would actually make this run a lot more smoother, I would think. So I was just looking at formality. Oh, I didn't say yield the floor. Did you want to go?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, but so it would be helpful to know how we'd like to move forward with this. I think this process that we used the last time was decent, but I don't think it's the most effective with the technology we have before us. I think that there should be some type of shared document or paper where we can put up. I haven't received, any changes from anyone, so I didn't send mine on because I didn't know what form we're using. But I just, in other working groups and meetings or committees of sorts, it's nice to kind of have that stuff. So I'm just looking for some more collaboration and ways that we could kind of move this along a little bit more efficiently. I yield the floor if that's the word we have to use.
Thank you. The Google Docs, I'm not comfortable doing that because who are we sharing this with? And do we use our Outlook for Google Docs? Because I know you have to have a Gmail account, I believe, in order to do Google Docs. Because I know there was something, I got an email today where it was a Google Doc and it opened up into my personal email, which I didn't feel comfortable with from the town account. So I'm not comfortable doing a Google Docs, but we all have a copy of what's written, and I highlight any changes that we've talked about and forward it on. So when we all have a copy working in front of us, I just don't want to be trying to type and write as we're doing this, because I still have to take meeting minutes. So I do everything the same night to make sure I have everything to move forward on my end to make sure I get the meeting minutes out in a timely manner. And everyone can review the video if there's any concerns. I yield the floor. Council Bordelon.
Thank you. Again, I think it'd be the most effective if you're not comfortable using those platforms, that's fine. I do think that having a way then that we send all of our submissions or suggestions up front, and then they're all put into one document that we disperse amongst the three of us, would allow us to kind of see everything on one page and be able to talk about it and look at edits in real time. So yes, if that's not the way you'd like to proceed, I can respect that, but I do think it would be much more beneficial, and time, it would move a lot more smoothly to be able to everyone send all their ideas in. We have time to review them all, and not to say that we couldn't change or add things as we go. It's not written in stone, but I think it would allow for the document to move and be able to be manipulated and talked about in a more aggressive and just fluency, wording just would make more sense to me. And obviously there might not be additions or changes on every line, so therefore those would just stay as they are. But it doesn't mean that when we arrive to them, maybe on the night of, you might have an idea or a suggestion for a change. So, but if this is how you'd like to run it, we'll keep going. Thank you.
Are you yielding the floor?
I apologize. That's not part of my normal language, but I will try to remember tonight. I apologize. Yep, I'm all set.
Thank you.
If you see my mic go off, then that's a good sign that I'm done. Thank you.
So as I stated before, we were going to go line by line, and you received a copy of 1 through 5 to review. And were there concerns with what was presented? Councilor Franco.
Thanks. I think it was rule 3. Letter A, where it's highlighted, including all votes from all counselors, summaries of discussion sufficient to inform the public per FOIA and Robert's Rules of Order, and that part was added. All minutes of the council shall be kept in compliance with FOIA requirements. I don't know if the last sentence is redundant.
Were you asking me the question? I was gonna ask that too. I thought it was redundant.
Yeah, maybe we
And-
should remove the second sentence if we're in agreement.
Okay. I can agree to that because it makes sense to not have the redundancy. Counselor Bordelon, are you in agreement with that?
I just had another suggestion regarding this. Another way that this could run a little bit more smoothly as well is if you're not willing to use any of the platforms of documents, another way would be use the share screen and share the document. And then while we're in the meeting, one of the other people could actually delete and add things in real time in different colors. And so we could kind of, see it on the screen versus waiting for the printout. So this would be a great example right now where we would just hit backspace, backspace, delete, and we could add. We could put asterisks, we could put suggestions or things that we might want to revisit. We could put little notes in real time. And that's why it would be a working document. Doing it this way, it's, we're not meeting every week. And so until you get the draft, it just seems, I don't know. And it doesn't seem efficient to have to go back and rewatch a whole meeting to pick it apart to make sure it's written incorrectly. If we did it in real time, it would actually be the most accurate. Thank you.
I've heard the concerns. Thank you. Oh, fiddlesticks, what did my thing just do? And this is why. Okay, my computer just did something. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, what? Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, there it goes. Okay, I'm back. I don't know what's going on with that. Mr. Burt? I don't know if you're still. Could you put the document up just for view only, not to work on it, because
Give me a
So-
minute to get to it.
thank you. Because I can't get to it. It's showing me different files that I don't want open.
Types in the language.
Hey, question for the town manager, if I may.
Can you just give him a moment to look for the documents and then ask the question, please? Thank you.
It's in reference to that, though, just while he's looking, I just had a question. Because I'll just state it to you guys as well. If you take the document and you copy it and then paste it into a Word document, you could share the Word document and we could.
Yes, ma'am. That's what he's working on right now, because I sent it as a Word document. But when I'm trying to pull it up from a share screen, it's not giving me access to the file folder that I have it on my desktop. Thank you.
I mean, you had emailed the Word doc. I've got the PDF. I'm trying to find the Word.
If you, John, if we just highlight the PDF and drop it in a Word document and share the Word screen, it should pop up.
Well, while we're waiting for that, we can still look at what the concern was about, because everybody has a copy in front of them right now until we can pull that one up. The question
There,
was,
when
I'm sorry?
when I try to paste it, it all scrambles. It loses all the formatting. I've tried different special pastes. It's not letting me.
Yeah, and I can't unless I log out for a moment and log back in. Oh, wait a minute, let me try this.
I could, throw up the PDF one, but it says draft across it.
And that's not the full thing, it was just a section of it.
Okay.
So give me 1 second, let me see if I can, because it does not like me right now. Anyways, we're gonna, there it is.
I don't think it's necessary to share at this time. I mean, we all have the documents right in front of us, and that's how we worked on it last time. So if there's technical difficulties, we can just keep moving on. It's not required.
That's up to you. I mean, if it wasn't set up to do that for tonight, so then we just move forward. It just mere suggestion of, we can prepare better for the future.
And we're going back to Rule 3. The concern that Councilor Franco just brought up. Do we agree to take out that line?
I agree.
Council Bordelon?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
For the next meeting, if you send me the actual Word document, I'll make changes I'll make the changes on screen.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Any other concerns with 1 through 5 besides that one that we concerned with? Did you have something else? Counselor Borderline.
Yeah, let me flip to, I'm running between the original document and the draft document. 1 second. All right, so looking at E, let me go. So under this, so if it's the thing that you sent out with the draft, it'd be page 7. Letter E. I guess I would have to go back and rewatch the meeting to find exactly what a bunch of things were said under that. And I have text here that I could send that, I think match more what was represented, in my opinion, but I'm still unclear as to the final direction on that one.
We said that we would bring it up to the committee, the whole council, because there was a suggestion of a permanent. And there's only a pro tem according to our rules currently, and also in the town charter is only a pro tem when the mayor is not absent. And then we were asked, the question was asked about names on the floor, how to choose the pro tem. Would it be on the floor, a roll call vote? And is it 5 votes or most votes? Did you still have your hand, you had your hands up still, Council Bordelon?
I was just following your rule of yielding the floor. Are you yielding the floor?
Your question was about this, and hopefully I explained that.
Yeah, and then you paused, and so I didn't want to interrupt you because you said to use the words like yield the floor. So just
Well,
making.
I was asking you if you had any more response to my
Sure.
response.
So I think when there's something that we're just leaving open-ended, in other working groups and committees that I've been on where we were drafting rules or things in not just in politics and everything, you then put all the ideas. So every person that has something, since we're going to bring it back to the floor, then you just type in all of that under there because it's really not decided.
No, it's not decided. Are you yielding the floor?
No, I was still going.
Okay.
It was not decided. So therefore, we have 5 here. It was originally, roll call vote of 5. I kind of wanted 3, just different things. And I think if there's areas, then you just put it all in there and send it to the council so it can be fully discussed. Also, just the way it's written, it doesn't show the council there was any other form of discussion on that item. And it would be easier that when we come to those spots that we add in, that's why the working document works really well. You can add in the text and just kind of put, and that way it will go to the floor for discussion. Thank you.
Are you yielding?
Basically, I'd like to see, like in a good working document, you see everybody's input. It doesn't mean that the 3 necessarily agreed upon it, but if it's something that we're leaving kind of open-ended, it's good. It's just good forum to put everybody's ideas in there and send it for them so it can be discussed. I mean, it could be a possibility where council might take a piece of this, a little of that, and not use any one suggestion solely. So that's, I just would like to just see a better working document. Thank you.
Are you yielding?
Yield it.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
I think we knew under Rule 5, Section E, that it was going to be a large debate. And instead of doing the huge debate throughout this rule committee, it was selected to go back to the council, let the whole debate happen there, instead of just being redundant on the whole thing, because I believe no matter what we decide here, when we go back to the council, it's going to be debated all over again. So let's just do the full debate at the council. And that's my suggestion. And I don't think it needs to have everything written out in whole. I think that it can be done there. It was just as section 4, rule C, is whether it will be 30 minutes or 60 minutes, and that we're leaving up to the council to decide, because there's no sense in, let's just let them decide. Not everything on this whole document has to be decided here. We can go back and request input and then continue on after we receive answers. So I yield.
Okay, so I understand the working document. There's opportunity for all of us, each counselor, to review the videos. Meeting minutes or working drafts do not have to have verbatim. It's the overall. And I've also have worked with many different groups, working groups, rules. I don't think we need to have verbatim things, suggestions. I've been doing this for years. My other hat is as a secretary. I feel that we got the gist of the verbiage in here. This whole entire document is this is the working document. The whole document is going to be submitted to the whole council to review. I'm highlighting each section so that, hey, this is where we were and what changes we thought of or looked at and maybe want your input. The whole thing is going to be the whole entire working document that they review. Because I'm not submitting this whole thing. We can submit this for partial, but we're still looking at these rules as a whole. It has to be submitted as a whole. This is only a partial section for each meeting. So as of right now, this is our working document. Highlighted yellow means, hey, there's a discussion on, but we're gonna need the whole council to decide on. It's stuff that we had question on that we have to investigate further. I yield the floor, Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Again, I think it's important to add, if we're part of this group equally, if there's an item that comes up like that, then the draft should have every one of us from this committee's input on that. It's going to go before the council, but we were doing the work to start. So it should, even if none of you agree with it, my opinion or thought on it should be included for consideration, just like either, one of yours that either one, whatever you guys want to put on. That's my thought. That's not how you want to run it. That's your decision, but I just don't agree with that. I think it should have everybody's input on there and then let it go before the council. We might get 6 more different ideas when we arrive, but we have been doing the work and the time and work that we're doing in these meetings and taking the time to be here. It should be added into the working document as a suggestion. Thank you. And I yield.
Okay. Besides that, are there any others that from rules 1 through 5 that we have concerns with? Because if not, we're going to move on to the next one, because as we previously stated, this is all going to go to the whole entire council as a whole document. We're only reviewing sections at a time. Because we will need information regarding state. Yes, Councilor Franco.
Rule 2, Section A is highlighted. I'm not sure exactly why. So I think that was just maybe, just a little typo there. Section G has a cross out, and then it says shall in italicized, and that should probably be highlighted, I think, right? So that it shows
Oh.
a change.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, no problem. I yield the floor.
Thank you. I will make those changes and make sure I put down that we're working on that part. Are we ready to look at Council Bordelon? Council Board, can't hear you.
Page 5, letter C. The 5 is added in yellow. So are we saying our proposed is possibly 5 or 3? Is that how this is reading? With the or in there, we're saying we're sending forward to the council that we are suggestion 3 or 5 and kind of leaving it as an open-ended item.
Which section again?
Page 5, letter C.
Yes, okay.
Right, so that's an example, like with the other one on page 7, we're leaving other suggestions in there. So I just think that we should, like, if someone else said 2 or another person said 6, we should add those numbers in there so folks can see what was put forward to this document. So
Under section C, what section has 2 or 3 besides this?
I'm using that as examples of ideas. If someone else said they wanted to see 2, like it would be added there, 2 or 5 with 3 there, just really just adding all the thoughts in here so that the document can be picked apart, because my concern is information will get lost if we don't add it in here. A great example, we could work through this whole thing, send it to the council, and they could say, we don't like any of it. And they might want to propose other ideas. It could have been the same ideas that were brought up in this meeting by other councilors that just weren't added to the document. So why not add it to the document now to allow for that to be discussed and looked at? But what we're doing is, once we vote this out of committee, it's the mere vote of 3 of us. The council does not have to accept any of it. So I just think it would save time by adding all of the thoughts in the working document so that it's, we don't backpedal later. Just doesn't, it's hard to follow even being part of the committee, that's all. Because you can't, it doesn't, without rewatching meetings like you stated, who wants to sit and rewatch meetings that you were a part of? If there's good notes, then you don't need to do that. I yield the floor.
Council Franco?
Talking about saving time, we are now 35 minutes since the start of this meeting, and we haven't even started any business because we're talking about process. And I think that the chair of the meeting is the one who will decide how we go forward, because that's why she's the chair. And if she has chosen her way of going forward, that's what we have to respect. And I also have my notes and I have my paperwork and I look at it and I write my notes. So when we get to the council meeting, they're very clearly written here. So if there are issues, we have them. So I'm not exactly sure why we keep rehashing things over and over again. So I would just suggest that maybe we could get on to the business at hand. And if this is how it's going to be, we're not going to get anything done. And we might as just well send the whole document back to the committee of the whole and say, you know what, we're not getting anywhere. So the whole council has to now work on the document. Because honestly, if we're going to do this every meeting for over a half hour, the whole council should be working on this then. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Counselor Bordelon,
I respect what you stated. I think the process was never clearly defined at the first meeting. This is our second meeting, and originally they didn't even want to have it until February, so here we are. I think it's important that if we're going to be part of the meeting and make sure our information is valued in our time, that we just know the process. And, you know, now next time John is going to upload the document, I had asked the last meeting. So, I mean, the fact that I'm not running the meeting and if the stuff is not ready, then that's, I mean, it doesn't mean that we should just run on and move on. I'm also taking notes, but when the draft goes before the council, good governance and good documentation would have everybody's thoughts and processes in that document. So everybody in that council can quickly read it, because they're not going to watch every rules meeting. And that way they can see the information. It can be guided very quickly and the options are there. I think it's a mere suggestion, but if you guys would like to move on, let's move on. But I ask that we do better. And I hope that we start using some of the technology and ways of adding stuff in here that's a little bit more transparent and open. This is a very, it's just not the best process. But like Councilor Franco said, let's move forward.
are you yielding the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Franco,
Thank you. We don't use electronic documents during our town council meetings. When we change anything, we don't sit there and type it up while we're working on it. I just don't think that's a good practice. Otherwise, we'd be doing it every single council meeting. And then there's FOI issues. So I think this is good. I think every time we make changes, it's verbally stated. And then there's nothing that can slip through an error because it was typoed in by one of us and we didn't realize somebody else did it. So with a shared document, because that can happen. So I like the process. I think Chair Parker is doing just fine. This is not, I don't mean to be flippant, but this isn't rocket science here. We can very easily just go through this document on a piece of paper, document what we would like to change as we vote on it, and then just keep moving forward. Thank you. And by the way, it's going to go to the whole council, and I'm sure they're going to pick apart everything that's done here. And then we'll come back and we'll work on it again, because that's what happens. Thank you. I yield the floor.
so on that note, we are moving forward. We are going to go to the next section. And we are now on Rule 6, which is page 15 of the original packet that we received from our last meeting. So it's a conflict of interest. So council shall declare or make known any personal or financial interest in subject matter under debate as required by the rules on conflict of interest in section 3.53 of the charter, and should also be, and it shall be so noted in the minutes. I don't see it. It is what it is. It's in the charter, so. I don't see any issues on my end, and I'm looking at the charter over again, just in case. Any concerns, Council Franco?
I don't see any, because it also discuss conflict of interest and the code of ethics. And the ethics commission on the charter. So I think in reference to the 3.5.3 of the charter, I think it's good. I'm good. Thanks. I yield.
Councilor Bordelon?
Yield.
Rule 6, 7, I mean, 6. Okay, we can. We'll go on to row 7. And leave row 6 as is. Order of business and agenda. Unless altered by a 2/3 vote of the councilors present and voting at a meeting, the regular order of business shall be as follows. Roll call, declare a quorum and call to order. A salute to the flag, recognitions, awards and memorials, public hearings, if any, receipt of citizens petitions, comments and concerns, responses to citizens petitions, comments and concerns, the consent calendar, approval of minutes, appointments, administrative items, and deletions and additions from the town council referral list. Communications reports and liaison reports other than committee reports, town councilors, clerk of RTM, clerk of the council, town manager, department heads, superintendent, committee reports, new business, other business, which has the referral list. I thought. And now I have a concern because I'm wondering about the deletions under the consent calendar because we don't talk about the other referral list until other business. And then adjournment. Does anyone else have concerns about that? Because I don't believe we do consent calendar that way. Council Franco.
I agree. I see some things in here that are not quite in the order we do it, and maybe there should be some changes. Maybe I'd like to make a suggestion and maybe we can discuss. I see that as you're stating in section 7D, deletion additions from the town council referral list. Maybe that should be moved to the referral list, other business. And you know what, honestly, we haven't been doing this and I don't know why it dropped off our agenda.
It's because it's a new system. We quit doing it once we went to the new system. The old one, you had to do something special to remove it from the software. The new one, as soon as you say resolve, as soon as the resolution's passed, it automatically drops out.
So
that one should be
This one says
deleted.
deletions and additions.
So
I add under other business, I have a note, I have my note here and I would say, this says referral list. And I put a little asterisk and I said where new referrals can be made public but not debated.
right.
So I wanted to add that.
I
And then
know. Hold on, let me go to that.
you want to talk about it in general and then we'll figure out the fine tune it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the referral list, so we should maybe add either just the addition, maybe take the 7D, put it there, but remove the deletion part because it's automatically now, and additions from town council referral list. And that's where we could say where we can make them public but not debated. And then I would remove the suggestion to have councilors report any events they attend here or upcoming events under other business. I would just leave that because we've been doing it under town council communications because there's no committee reports read there. So that's usually where we say where our communications of where we've been, what we've done. But there is the section 9 where it says committee reports. And it was one, I know it's usually for, ABC committees, But there's also people that are going to these other liaison committees, and sometimes they have some good stuff to report back. And I don't know if we should just leave that under the town council communications, or if they should be able to have a little moment to share, like they were at Economic Development Committee and this is what they learned there and they wanted to share with the council, or they were on the Board of Ed, RTM, town council, you know, the liaison committee with all the groups, and they learned something there and they wanted to share with the, you know, the council. I don't know how the liaison, because there's nothing about liaison, and should they just do that under town council under 8A? That's it for me right now, and we could maybe discuss it and then fine tune it. Thanks. I yield.
All right. Council Bordelon?
Thanks. Yeah, I think that whole area needs to be reworked. I definitely think it's something we should bring forward to the council, because it doesn't flow or follow any way that we do. I could support, the referral line under D, and we do our communications under that section. If there's any other reports, then it can go in the other section from actual liaison committees or whatever. I could support that, but I mean, as a whole, I think it, looking under, so letter B, number 3, under notes to the order of business.
I haven't gotten to that section yet.
No, I thought we were just doing that whole section, sorry.
No, I was doing the one section at a time of under here. That's
So
why
we're-
I only read up to where the other business with the referral list.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, I think, the whole layout. For me to kind of see the whole thing, I kind of need to look at all of 7. That's kind of how I see it in my head. But it is, I think definitely there's some, I can support some of Councilor Franco's suggestions, kind of similar notes I have here, just reworking where we add things. And I think, as I've said always, that the referral should definitely be done public. That was a big concern under the last time, is that everything was done on email. So I think there should be a line where those can be stated into the record. So how that would look, I'm open to suggestions. So thank you. I yield the floor.
Okay. Councilor Franco?
Actually, I forgot to take my hand down, but how about we start with, I think maybe up to 6, we're good. Does everybody agree with that?
I can agree with that. The first 6 are fine. It's the consent calendar down is where we're having questions. Yes.
Right, so I'm just gonna make my notes that those were good. So in the consent calendar, can we remove D? Just remove it, like completely remove it.
Got that. That was my concern about having that in there. I thought we had taken that out at the last rules, but I guess we didn't.
And then I'm good with, are you,
Oh, go ahead.
I don't want to keep moving, but is Council Bordelon okay with that?
Council Bordelon? Are you yielding the floor for a moment, Council
Yeah.
Franco?
Yes.
Okay. Council Bordelon?
Yeah, I still have concerns with the top 6, so I'm still there. So where are we moving to now?
What are your concerns on the top 6?
I raised my hand and I was waiting, the response to citizens petitions and concerns, receipt of citizens petitions. The agenda comes out, has times on it. Shouldn't that be in our rules, or is there really not supposed to be a time, because there's nothing here in the rules with a time on there?
This is just how to do the business. This is not to what this internally is underneath. This is just what we look at the agenda, a regular agenda. The responses, I believe that's under another section, isn't it?
I was digging around, I don't know.
I don't think we've taken that. Yes, because that's it's rule 11, which we're not at. Because rule 11 technically comes out of the town charter. So,
All right, so we're just looking at the rollout of the formality of it.
yes, we're only looking at the formality of how we do the order of business. The rest of the stuff comes in afterwards. This is just the order of business
Got it. Thank you.
format.
Yeah, I mean, I think that looks, public hearing receipt looks fine to me. I'm good up to 6 right now.
So the suggestion from Council Franco is to remove, well, I agree with, that was my concern was D, because D does not make sense. And Council Franco thinks we should remove it. Are we all in agreement to remove under consent calendar, section 7.7.7D, under the consent calendar, to remove that line for ease of reading?
I'm okay with it.
Council Bordelon?
I'm confused, I guess. I thought it was removing the word deletions and leaving additions from the town council referral list, and that was a spot where people could. So I just wanted clarification on that. A little confused.
No, this is to take that whole line out, because we have under other business is where she wants the referral list clarification. Because the consent calendar, we move it as a whole and approve it. We're not approving anything with the referral list.
Yeah, we can keep going, I guess.
All right, so section 7.8, 7.8.8, let me rephrase that, 7.8.8 is the communications reports and liaison reports. Because the committee reports are the specific committees, the Public Safety Rules Committee. Who am I missing? Oh, personnel and appointments. So we don't report those out in this section. So we can also say, yes, the liaison reports can go in that too.
I'm sorry, in 8, you're suggesting the liaisons?
No, it's already there on page, you don't see that? Communications reports and liaison reports are right there.
Okay.
Other than committee reports. So we don't report out our committee reports there. So the Board of Ed, town council, all those should be reported, or events, communications should be reported under the communication section. It doesn't say that on there, does it?
No, it does say communication reports and liaison reports, but
Okay,
it doesn't have it in the letters.
you mean our actual agenda or this under the rules? Because this is in the rules. I'm looking at the rules that it has that liaison reports, right? That was the concern.
Right, may I?
Yes.
Under section 8, it says communications reports and liaison reports, other than committee reports. And then it has A, town council, B, clerk of the representative, C, clerk of council, D, town manager, E, department head, superintendent, and school board of education. But it doesn't actually say liaison, or It doesn't say liaison reports.
Okay, may I?
Sure.
Okay. This is the town council reporting out what liaison you are to. We need to report out. So for instance, I'm on the TVCCA board. I'm supposed to report out when I'm able to be at that part of the meeting about the liaison report.
During section A.
During section A only.
Gotcha.
Each person's got to report it out under there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Like yielding?
I yield things.
Okay. Council Bordelon?
Thank you. Looking back at the letter D, the deletions, additions from town council referral list, John had said the town manager that the deletions happen automatically. I'm a little concerned about taking away the additions from the town council referral list because I think that's a great spot to report to make sure everything made it onto the list. So we should be reviewing that. We're approving, we're doing our due diligence consent calendar. And then at that line, you're looking at each item that was added. Even though a counselor is adding it under another line, it is good to kind of have that. Because I mean, how else is that read additions from town council referral list? So deletions and additions from town council referral list. That's what line D says currently, correct? So I guess I have a question for John. Deleting that would, I don't know, it just seems like if that was needed, why would we want to take that away?
It seems to me we've got the outstanding agenda items section. Let's
Okay.
keep it there. But what I could do is if something's new from the last time, I could like do something, I don't know, underline it, do something to make it stand out so you can see what's been added since last time.
Because we only report on the agenda items under one of our meetings, correct? The list doesn't come under every agenda packet,
Correct.
right?
It's the main council meeting.
Correct. So it seems to me there, you'd want to keep the list of, counselors' referrals or referral items that are on that list as a constant thing that we're
It's
looking at. And
It's on page 16. It's under section 11. Other business is the referral list. This was sections only to approve. This is the whole thing. We move approval of minutes, appointments, and administration. So we would approve that the deletions and additions are fine as a whole. We don't take these apart when we're approving the consent calendar. That's why we moved the referral list, because we have items on there that were still open, and that means we will approve them without having worked on them. I think that is the intent, was why we put it under other section, so that we knew that, yes, there's open ones and there's ones that have been completed, because John marks it done when the time is done, or we're going to be continuing working, or who it's gone to. Like one of the items is under the Planning and Zoning Commission, so they're still open. But if we have it under here and move it as a whole under the consent calendar, we've approved everything without working on it. Does that make sense?
I didn't want to interrupt you. Are you done?
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, it depends. I mean, it's been here for a reason, and I can understand it just doesn't. I mean, I also think that you're approving that, yes, the items on that under that consent calendar, when you move it, you're agreeing that those referrals made it to the list. I think that's appropriate to do it there too.
but
So you're basically approving, like you said, when you move the consent calendar, that the deletions and additions are accurate. That's how I'm reading it. I don't know, John, do you have any other thoughts on it at all that you're seeing? Because I think there, at this particular style meeting, you're basically saying that the deletions that automatically come off and the additions of what we have before us, even though it has not been worked on, what I'm agreeing to is that they made it onto that list, not that they're done business or been worked on. I'm agreeing that the deletions that have come off that have been worked, but the additions are still sitting where they are. That's how I see it. I think you should have constant looks and reviews of that. That's, just good oversight.
Okay.
So that would be my opinion. I don't know, John, do you have any suggestions on that?
Wait a minute, before we call Mr. Burt.
I was just asking him because he was talking about the deletions, so I'm asking him as my question.
Now, in terms of the main outstanding list, that I would only want to do once a month because we're constantly tweaking things and I just don't have time to do it every time. But in terms of the consent calendar, like, let's say we could do new referrals, but there's gonna be other things that it's initiated by staff that wouldn't go through there, that have to be done. So if you did something for additions there, it should be keeping track of what's been referred since last time by council members.
That's
So
right.
just like Rachel did those few the other night, you did one before, that we just start listing those since last time, what referrals have we received from council members? That's easy to do.
Right.
And then if there's something missing there, then you let me know and we add it.
Right, because I think in theory, right, before we were told we needed all these we needed like all these seconds and thirds and fourths to get things to the agenda, when in fact, it seems as if we don't. I think it's really great if we're able to say them on camera live. I think the most transparent, but it doesn't, in a revolving week, constituents are contacting you. So therefore you might have something else come up that you might still send via email and just shoot it out. So it's out. And then that would be something that could be brought up, another referral that was brought in, not necessarily verbally, maybe it was sent in by email. So that would be another way to acknowledge the receipt of that.
It's easy enough to do.
And I think it also happens early enough in the meeting where then, someone will be able to catch that, you know what I mean? Because I think as we add things, as we go into the meeting, they sometimes relate. And I think at the beginning of that, that's a great time to just make sure something is not missing that was sent either by email or, and I can agree that the town staff stuff might not make it on there, but direct referrals from counselors, it's a catch basin. Thank you.
Are you yielding?
Yep.
Council Franco?
Thank you. I would like it to be under section 11, where it says the referral list. And that's where all the referral stuff with discussion, additions, all that stuff should all be together. And that's how we've been handling it. So I think it should all just stay together. So that's what I'm in favor of. Thank you.
Okay. Are you yielding?
Yes,
Thumbs
I
up. Okay, thank you. So I pulled out my town council meeting, regular meeting agenda. So under consent calendar, it says all matters listed under consent calendar on the agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will take place unless cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to adopt. Hence why the referral list was moved out so that we can discuss the referral items on section 11. To make sure that if there's any additions and subtractions or deletions, that we have everything under there. So I don't want us to move the whole thing and not have a discussion, because when you move that, yeah, it's got to be, you have to say something before we move it. So I'm going to stick with, I like the town council referral list, which is under other, to stay under separately so that we have the opportunity to discuss those items at the time of the council. But on the same token, we are not to go into full depth conversations or going back and forth. It's just say, hey, this referral is still open. Okay, it's being worked on. Move forward. Or you've added a referral under section 11 at the time of night, because we're not supposed to be discussing under the consent calendar those individual items unless we say we're going to read something or we're going to bring it up before we vote on it. And most of the time we do not remember that we vote on it, then we try to discuss it, and we're not supposed to. So I'm only trying to make sure we clear this up. So I'm all in favor of moving the referral list from the consent calendar so that we can have a discussion at the end. I yield, Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. You can, I mean, if we're not in agreement on it, we can just note it there. I think it does due diligence and transparency to have it there. No, I don't think it should be discussed, but I think that's a catch basin to make sure that any additions are there and we move it. But then if there's questions in the other end where it's discussed, you can catch it here that it's not there and discuss it under the other area. But we can move on. If you could just add that to the notes as a suggestion. Thank you. Yield. I want to make sure I say that.
Thank you. So as of now, let me clarify. The suggestion is to keep the deletions and additions there, one suggestion. Second suggestion is to remove it because it is discussed under section 11. Under other business. So that's how I'm going to type it, that the suggestion is to keep it there or remove it and keep it under section referral list under that section so that we can discuss. Yes, Council Bordelon.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Yeah, I think you also should just put a note in there as to what the suggestions were. Like Councilor Franco had stated her reasons for moving it the way. I also thought another suggestion was just getting rid of the word deletions as a third suggestion and just putting additions from the town council and referral lists. So I'm okay with that version. And my reason would be not for discussion purposes, but it would be a catch basin and it can be discussed further under the other section. So if you could add that, thank you. Yield.
One moment, Council Franco. Council Franco.
So if we leave section D there, referrals will never be read out loud, new referrals. It's simply passing them because we, like you said, we pass the consent together as a whole, the consent calendar as a whole, unless there's something specific we need to tackle. So all the new referrals that come through would not be read out loud. And when you got to section 11, I mean, that's where you go over the referral list. So I don't know why we would separate it out and why you wouldn't want, as a counselor, if you're bringing forward a referral, why you wouldn't want to be able to read out your referral in the referral list area. But you know what? it will definitely save us time if we don't read the referrals out loud. So on one hand, I don't mind them being in the consent calendar because we will just pass them to put them onto the referral list and we won't be reading them out loud. So it would save us quite a bit of time. So I might be in favor of that now that I thought about it more. I yield. Thank you.
Okay, I have all three suggestions. And then I'll voice my concerns. Well, I already stated my concerns that there would be no discussion. We would pass everything as a whole. So we'll leave that one as, we'll move on. Yeah, we'll move on. So now we're on Rule 7A, Section 8. So this is the communications, anything we received, people we've spoken to, events we've attended, because we've automatically been doing that. Any other reports, our liaison reports, whatever committees, we've been ad hoc committees, we've been ABCs, we've been part of, other than committee reports. Are we all good with this one?
Good.
Now committee reports. This is just. Mr. Burt,
Yes,
so I'm looking at our agenda. And that's actually our last one. It jumps from those committee reports, other than committees. Where do we do our committee reports?
usually you end up just doing under communications lately, haven't you?
No, and not the,
Oh, you used to, that's right. I guess there was, I'm trying to think.
because it's
Maybe it
not
was
on,
what-
it's not on here. So that's a concern. Because it jumps from communication reports, other than committee reports, it jumps right down to new business. So we're missing a section, the committee reports. So,
hold on a sec. I'm looking at, the current 32nd, it's right after committee reports on this, X new business. 10 new business, or committee reports 9 and then 10 new business. So it goes
Right.
communications reports. So committee reports is right after communications.
and then, well, I'm looking at our current agenda that we just had on January 4th.
Hmm.
And it does not show that.
Maybe because the committees hadn't been formed yet.
Oh, true. Well, we could have just, maybe we should say that the committees hadn't been formed yet. If we can still keep it in, because now it doesn't look like we have committees.
Right. I'll mention that to Lisa.
Thank you. Now, let me go back and pull an old one because I want to make sure. There we go. I'll do this one. Yeah, if we can, because even so, we still had the committee of the whole, because. So basically, the committee reports would be the committee, of the whole personnel and appointments rules committee, and the Public Safety Committee. So that doesn't change besides what we don't have right now. I yield the floor, Councilor Franco.
I agree. I don't have a problem. I would like them listed out maybe on here. Like it does in section 8, where it says town councilors, clerk of the representative and all that. We should probably list them as like, as it's listed on our town council packets, committee of the whole and the mayor, personal and appointments and the chairman, and then it says rules and the chairman, and then it says public safety and the chairman. And so I think those, we should list them out here as A through D and actually list them if that's possible. Would you be in agreement with that? Chairman Parker? Chairwoman Parker?
Oh, well, I believe it's already done originally. I just went back and pulled out an old one. And it does list it out separately like that. So you want them, you want that within the order of business on the agenda. You want this formally written into the rules. That's who the committees are.
Yes. So it's just there. Same as section 8 was A through E, we would do the same with 9 and do A through D and put them in there.
Are you yielding the floor?
I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Councilor Barlawn?
That's what I kind of have here is listing them out, because it'd be good to just have them in here so they're not lost. And then the only thing would be if we added another committee ever, we'd have to go back and obviously just adjust these rules.
Okay, so we're good with adding the committee reports, listing out each committee as similar to section 8. So we're all in agreement on that.
I am. Thank you.
Council Borderline, yes? Okay. All right. Next section is new business. And I think that's self-explanatory. As we don't know the agenda items, that's okay. We can leave that as new business. Are we good with that one?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good, Council Bordelon?
Okay.
All right, the next section is section 11, which is the other business, which is the referral list. And I believe Councilor Franco said she would like to scratch or strike out that suggestion of the councilor's reports of any events. Does that include upcoming events? Because
I think A should be a referral list and maybe B should be announcements, because there are times where people have either arrived late or they have something to mention and they've missed it during communications. And I think that's usually where people, it's a little bit open where we can discuss a few topics. Not discuss, but announce something or state something, because we, under other business, we really shouldn't be debating and discussing things that aren't on the agenda. So I would probably like, I don't know how to word it the correct way, but I don't think it has to go there instead of under communications. I think it should just be like very quick, like, because usually our meetings are going so late. By then, if it's that late, people don't always want to make an announcement, you know, but sometimes you want to slip it in just to be, it has happened. So maybe there should be something there, just very quick. I don't know if anybody has a suggestion maybe on how to word it, but I would like to add something to section A under the referral list, but I will wait until we finish this topic. Thank you.
Are you yielding,
Yes, yield, thanks.
Council Bordelon?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I think I could see breaking up AB, or moving this up in its entirety. Let's see, the consent calendar, or I don't know. It just doesn't flow very nice, honestly. Just the way that it's set up, it kind of becomes redundant. Because people are announcing that and reports and everything under the other section. You know what I mean? When the counselor speaks, they do all that then. So if you're saying you want to short meetings, you want to add that again to the end as well. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I guess that's a question. Is that what you guys are thinking, is adding it in dual spots so you can say it in both places, or?
I'm not understanding the question.
Right, that's what I'm asking for clarifying myself is,
No, I'm not asking I'm not understanding your question. You said you had concerns about the whole format.
the whole format. I mean, it's very choppy. I mean, it doesn't flow. I mean, personally, I really do think that we should look at all of this in its entirety. I mean, I think, but I mean, are we held to this format because of our charter?
We're held to this format to Robert's rules. It goes in a specific order.
Right, I understand that, but to add events and communications under that section again, it's like councilors already have spoken about that at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm fine. I mean, we can add it on there, and I just wanted to see what the thought, if a counselor shows up late, then that way they have a chance to speak about it there. Is what was said, is that the motivation?
I think the upcoming events, not for instance, on February 1st, you're having the Black History.
Right, we've
Flag
always
raising.
reported that at the beginning, though. Usually people say, oh, this is going on when they do their communication. So do you want to space that up? You want to break that up? That's what I'm asking.
Not everybody.
Normally counselors have said, oh, yes, I attended, sports fields. I went to a Fitch High School graduation. I did this, I did that. I had some communication and emails. And then some people will say, like, also there's a beautification event where we're planting bulbs, or, on Friday, come on down and help us pick up knit bottles and recycle, trash pickup. Black History Month celebration. People usually say that all there. If we keep adding other spots, I just feel like it doesn't flow. That's all I'm asking. So we do all of that now in the one section. So I don't know. Whatever. I mean, we can just put both ideas down. I mean, if you want it in dual sections, that's great. Is there a reason to split it up? I mean, so do you want people to hold announcements of anything community? I think that should come at the beginning of the meeting, because that's when some people, that tune in, they want all that information up front. I'll yield the floor.
Council Franco?
I need to go grab my book, but I'm curious as to what does Robert's Rules of Order say other business is for?
Hold on, I have my book out.
Mine is downstairs and I probably have to go around and grab it.
Wait a minute, hold on. Give me one moment.
No, I'm good too. I'm looking as well. So I just Googled it. And it says it's the last item on the agenda for a meeting when any matter not already dealt with may be raised. So this is where just like at times when something like you missed asking the town manager something and you thought about it in the meeting and you say, Mr. Burt, is this happening on such a day? Or were you able to do this during the week? I mean, we've had these very simple questions at the end, or something was brought up in the meeting and it made something so where you held on to it at the end of the meeting. Because it's not a debate time and it's not, you know, there's nothing in the agenda there other than the referral list where we can talk about that. But it's just something like item, like a matter not already dealt with may be raised. That's it. And that could be even saying, there's an event on Saturday. So maybe that's what we just sort of leave it at. Maybe, I don't know. Thank you. I yield.
Council Bartolone?
Yeah, I think it's pretty generic in its nature. I mean, it just says here, you know, in here, it says when the time of the meeting has arrived, you know, the presiding officer opens it up, determines the quorum is present, and it just goes in, just basically defines it is kind of just a catch basin, really. Other business is other business. I don't even know that we really want to define it other than it being other business. It might be, and that's where going back to looking at the deletion and additions line, the referral. So I see that consent calendar. I'm consenting that this matches up with the referrals that I've received in the email and from the last meeting. Yes, they're on there, or no, wait, so-and-so's is not there. Okay, then someone makes a note of it. But let's just say after, you know, under that same day, under citizens petitions, Mary Smith, and this is just a generic name, says, you know, I'm really concerned about traffic on my road and, you know, this is going on, or someone's throwing litter in my yard and, you know, this is going on. Then I kind of see it as another spot where you can bring up, and I, like the Council Franco stated, I like things to flow organically because we're not a machine. We should be operating in a such that we're doing the business for the community. So that first look at the referral back in section 6 confirms that business that was recommended is there. And then back here, other business. Yes, it might be, hey, you know what, that jogged my memory. Everybody come out and do this. But it also could be that Mary Smith or John, whoever, stated something, and you might want to make a referral at that time. So it really is kind of a catch basin for everything, because right there, something could be merely meaningful, and other counselors might have spoke to that citizens petition, and we all might be kind of agreeing, and someone's going to be like, you know what, I would love to throw that referral on the floor. So I see it as just a, I don't know, should we define it out? I don't know, but I don't want to define it out too much, and then will it limit us from what we can do there? Because I think that is a good point in the meeting to address the concerns of the constituents that have come before us, and as well as anything that we may have forgotten. So thank you. I'll yield.
Council Franco?
So I'm going to expand a little bit more on this area of section 11. So in essence, I think the title should be other business. A should be referral list. And then maybe we should write a notation of where new referrals can be made public, but not debated. And discussion questions regarding topics on the referral list. Then section B, we should just title other business, leave it blank, because that's where things have just popped up. And I don't recall anywhere, I mean, it can't be debate, it can't be discussed. If I say, there's a blight problem at this address, somebody else can't bring up that address and that blight problem and have a debate, because then we're starting to do business. So it has to just be simple, straightforward, and then move on to something different from anybody else or whatever topic, but it has to be, I don't know, usually at the end of the night, nobody's bringing up too much. So when it's that late, but that's my suggestion, is to do referral list, those 2 points of topic, and then put B, other business, and just leave it blank, because it's, unless you want to define it as matters not already dealt with may be raised, and leave it sort of like that. I don't even, if you want it to. I yield the floor.
Counselor Waterline.
I just had a question for Councilor Franco. So when you say referral list, or would it be, counselors like more bringing forth a referral? I just had a quick question.
Well, my thought process of referral list was to look at the referral list and then also be able to, where new referrals can be made public but not debated, which sort of encapsulates, oh my gosh, I can't even speak tonight, where we send an email in where it could be read out loud. And that's why I was asking for it here and not in the consent calendar, because that's where it cannot be read out loud. So that's where I'm saying, well, maybe it does belong in this consent calendar, because it would save a lot of time, because we're not reading them all out loud.
Yeah.
But then again, for transparency and letting people know who's doing certain things, you can read it out loud, because then they'll say, oh, well, that's where that referral came from. That's who put that referral out. Because there are many things that happen in our town and they're like, who started that? Who brought that forward? And nobody has a clue, because they don't know how the referrals got on the list to begin with. So that's where, if people read them publicly, they'll understand, oh, that person brought this forward, and now they'll know. And then counselors will own their referrals as well. So that's where I think this is where they should be read out loud. Or instead of just pushing them through on consent. But consent, on the other hand, save a lot of time. So
I think, I can agree on,
Wait.
I will yield. I'll yield.
we were going back and forth. I still was on the floor and I asked her a question. We were going back and forth, but it doesn't matter. I can wait either way.
She yielded. I was waiting to see if she would yield.
Oh, okay. I invited her into the conversation. I was asking a question, and I was just going to respond. I didn't know she wasn't done. So yeah, under D, it would make sense to keep the consent calendar that, basically were sent, because what if the counselor was absent that day and couldn't read it? It shouldn't depict and delay it. So that line, that was emailed in, or referral that was spoken, at another meeting, that's not really being debated, it's pushing through. But what if you're not there that day? So it should still make it. It shouldn't have to be on this line only when read in. So I think it does serve a purpose in both spots, because it allows for it to be pushed forward, but also then on the other line, as Councilor Franco stated, you could then read it into the record if you chose to, which I think is great. I think you should. I think there's a lot of work that goes on in emails with the emails being sent, and it's not brought to the public, and I think it should. And so I think that's a great way. And it's not up for debate, but if one was missing in the other line, then you have a chance to bring it forward again under that other line, and you could read it into a record or make that referral if it didn't show up under the consent calendar line. So I don't necessarily want one or the other. I think they both kind of work together. That's just kind of how I was seeing it. I think they kind of go hand in hand, because if I emailed tonight a referral and then the next meeting I had an emergency and I couldn't make it, you still would pick it up under that consent calendar as it coming through. Thank you. I'll yield.
Councilor Franco.
Thank you. But also under the consent calendar, you're basically saying that the referrals need to be voted on. Because then if somebody does disagree with your referral, they can pick it out of the consent calendar and agree to have it removed. So we don't need to vote on anybody's referrals. So that's why I'm suggesting it just be done at the referral list at the end. And it should automatically be put on the referral list. It should be there. This is just an opportunity to read it out loud. And then, like we did always usually do, is review the referral list and make questions and simple, like, is this going to be coming up soon? Because I don't see a date next to it. Is this coming, or this has a date, can we push it back further because I'm not prepared to present with this? So there's questions, and that's where you say, I put in a referral, I don't see it on the list. Can you add it? Because it doesn't need a vote. So on the consent calendar, I don't know what we're voting on. So that's where I like it here as well. And it doesn't have to be read out loud. So if you're not there to read it out loud, it should be on the referral list. And that's where you question if it's not, because it doesn't need a vote. And I don't know why we break it apart and have it in the beginning. And honestly, it's never been there. We are not ever seeing this in numerous years now of it being in the consent calendar. So that would be something new as well. So in essence, I prefer it maybe being on the referral list, even if it's going to take a little bit longer, because then people would have to read their referral if they choose. And then the community would know what they're bringing forward. I yield.
Council Bordelon.
Yeah, I kind of see it as not being voted on. I see the word as consenting, more that you agree that we're in receipt of. So you're just agreeing that these referrals made it on versus voting on it. But I mean, if that's, as long as people are be able to get referrals, I mean, I think that's the new thing, is that we ran for two other terms where we weren't operating under the rules that were guiding us, in a sense that stated we didn't need these referrals. And so it's amazing now that we don't need them, that we found out. So that's an epiphany that for the last 4 years that has not been being followed. So
No, it used to be.
I'm still, do you want?
No, I'm just explaining. It used to be followed.
I just, last time I got kind of snapped at to say I didn't yield. So, but I'm fine with you talking, Rachel. Yeah.
I was unmuting. Well, hold on, time out.
So I think it's confusing. I think that's the biggest problem, is it's been followed one way and not the other. And all of a sudden it just poof went away. And when asked, we had to have 2 to 3 other counselors. You got to send it via an email, like stuff that wasn't being shown. So I personally don't see the consent calendar as a vote. I see it as just saying you're in receipt of and acknowledging that it's on the list. And if you don't see it there, would be your time to speak up and question it. And if it's not there, then you could, under the other line, then make your verbal, non-debatable referral. But either way, how you guys want to do it, we can talk about it. But I agree to move, let's move on.
Okay. I'm actually, oh, are you yielding?
I'll yield.
Thank you.
I mean, Chair Parker, do you have anything about the rules on how they, you sat on the last rules committee. Was it something that just fell through the crack, or was it misinterpretation so we can have it right this time? I would look for direction on that.
You talking about the referrals?
Yeah.
It was in a section. It's not there. It was there. I remember typing it. That the referral section, if we're going to do referrals, which we're not at, because that's on section rule 9.
Yeah, but we're talking about the section where other business and adding referral lists.
But you just asked a question about, you know what? Okay.
I'm just asking the question because you served on the rules for the last 2 consecutive times, and maybe there's somewhere that it can be helped to be clarified, since there was a huge error for almost 2.5 years where there was some interpretation, and the people from the rules interpreted it as such that was the way it to be followed. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to clarify that to make sure.
Since we are not at that section yet, we're not going to discuss that part of it, but we will, I'll remember to bring that up because I remember that it was to write in your referrals so that we did not mess up the referral when we're listening to it, because we want to ensure that we had the correct referral, similar as to when people sent in their request for us to look at something and we ended up with additional items that were not discussed at the referral level at the time, so that people had to make sure that we were doing the correct thing.
Mm,
Hence why we wanted an email from the person to say, okay, this is what you were looking for, so we don't misinterpret what you said. Because if it's written, then people understand that, okay, this is what this person's looking for. So,
mm. All right, yeah, it's a little confusing. And I'm just asking because we're talking about referral lists. So I'm just trying to see where else in the old rules allowed people to send their referrals publicly. In this one, it does not. And in the old rules, it never allowed supposedly, which why would we want everything to be done in email? So I don't know, just doesn't make sense, I guess. Thank you.
Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I will say in the beginning when we were 4 years ago, Counselor Parker and I, there used to be a section where we would have to delete items from the referral list. And the referral list was not under usually other business, and it was not posted so we could all see it like that. It was a deletion, basically. I don't even recall us approving adding things like that, but it was mostly a deletion and it had to be done. So that's why that part was there, probably under the consent calendar, because usually deleting these items after we've already achieved a decision one way or another was very simplistic. So it would go to consent calendar to be deleted. And that's just how it was done. How we make a referral, that's a topic for another day. But it's like 7:45, and I honestly think we should stop now and maybe finish
I'll
up this other
second.
business. I do not have a problem with section 12
Oh, wait a
adjournment.
minute. I'm sorry. Did you make a
I
motion?
didn't make a motion.
Okay.
I just said I think we should adjourn now. I do not have a problem with section 12. We should probably just button up 11 before we leave. And do you have anything, Chair Parker, that you have any questions on section 11 on how you might want to write up the minute, like, the draft for us?
So, referral list. New referrals made public. Have the referral list. Then you wanted a subsection to say new referrals made public, but are not up for discussion. But that's not how it was, probably have to word it.
I had said new referrals may be made public, but not debated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's hence the reason why having something written works out, because we do lose something in translation.
Mm-hmm. And then also a section saying referral list open to questions type of thing. Questions, concerns.
And you wanted something about announcements, which was a question mark.
Well, yes, I think like probably section B should just be listed as other business.
But we have the title named other business, so.
Right, but I was just thinking just be, I don't know what else to call it, other business, and just saying matters not already dealt with may be raised as the defining, I don't know what else to call it. Because that's basically what it said when I Googled other business in relation to meetings.
Okay. Council Bordelon, you said you want to keep both. You want to keep the deletions and additions for regarding the referral list under the consent calendar, and also still keep the referral list under other business.
I'd like to get rid of the word deletions. I'm also gonna read up on the other business under Robert's rules, if, you know, again, so, just to clarify some of this, because it's a little vague.
It was also called unfinished business, if you guys can't find it under other business.
Yeah, I
under
found it.
Robert's rule.
Thank you.
So,
So
uh,
I think I'm motioning to adjourn. I think we hit a wall here.
do I have a second? Was there a second? No second? Do we have more to discuss?
I just want to make sure that you're all set with your notes for your draft and before we close out the meeting.
Also, I think we should do some more research on the other business to make sure that, you know, what really can be there and really thoroughly before making assumptions, and then we're not following it correctly. So I'd like to look into that section a little bit further.
All right.
But you're good with your draft, all your notes for your draft?
Yes, and if not, I will contact.
Are we
Okay.
gonna set, are you gonna set the next date tonight or wait?
I- Oh, are Thursdays still working for you too? At this present time, as of right
Thursday.
now?
Currently still work, yes.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me pull my thing out because I have to double check something. Make sure I don't have an appointment. Before we adjourn, well, we didn't adjourn because we didn't have a second yet, so. Was, Mr. Burt, was there something on February 3rd? Or is that? Was there a tour on February 3rd?
Might be. Give me 1 second.
Thank you. Because if not, then it's gonna have to be,
There is a tour on February 3rd
okay, so.
and the 10th.
And the 10th.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't meet until the 17th because we have tour dates coming up. And that's not gonna work with council and the tour dates.
I'm not available on the 17th.
Would. Oh, fiddlesticks. Nope, I can't do that. Unless we switch the day temporarily. This is temporarily because I like the Thursday nights. What is February 11th like for everyone? Don't do Council Franco.
Friday night. Oh,
I can't do Friday night, the 11th. No.
So we have a council meeting and with February 1st is our council meeting. I normally don't have Wednesdays available. And did the Board of Ed, that's the other thing, because the Board of Ed, the liaison meeting for that is on normally the first Wednesday of the month, so that won't work either.
This month, that month, it's gonna be the joint board, where you talk about the Board of Ed's budget.
That's right. Oh, so we won't have it on the second,
No,
what's,
that is the second. They're gonna
oh, it
do.
is the second.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's out. And we got tours.
It's hard, we're trying to fit everything in before the budget season, because then we have meetings like every night for a while.
That's true. I'm open to suggestions except for the Tuesday.
What about
night.
the 15th?
Oh. Oh, yeah.
I'm not available that night, but that's, that's okay.
That's
I'm
okay. We can
uh,
move on.
Also, on the off council nights, I serve on the Noink community boards, and I have a meeting at 5:30, usually lasts about an hour unless there's something major on the schedule, so I would be available the earliest 6:30. That's it.
So we can temporarily do 6:30, or would it be better to do 7 o'clock just in case your meeting runs over? Are you agreeable to the 15th at 7 PM?
I could do 7 PM.
Council Franco?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay. So the next meeting date will be February 15th on the 22nd at 7 PM via Zoom. And I can take a motion. I believe Councilor Bordelon started it. Can I get a second?
I'll give it a second.
And all in favor?
Bye.
And the meeting is adjourned at 7:55 PM. Thank you, guys.
Cute.
Thanks. Night.
Good night.